What's up, War Room? Welcome back, Joe and Connor. Take two. I was trying to show my background and knock the camera out, so we had to
Great
restart.
moment.
We are going to dig into the Discord mailbag, fresh off recording a 30-minute pod. What I was trying to show is that at the live show, I'm going to get a picture of the entire Badlands team, and I'm going to make that the background instead of the cartoon we have, which I'll put on my other wall because I still like it. It was a nice gift for my wife a few years ago. But I think people got to see what we actually look like. And it's
We have
not
a big squad now,
You know,
like a
yeah.
consistent squad. Everybody's
Yeah.
kind of been a part of the team for a
Yeah.
while now.
Get everybody on stage. We'll get some new headshots. It's gonna be all professional. Gonna dress up the studio. CR, how you feeling before we get into this wide collection of questions we have from our Discord family?
I feel good. I've actually tried to not look in the Q&A channel as much anymore because I feel like it makes this section a lot more fun because most of our War Room videos now are just catching up on all the questions everybody has on the Discord because we've gotten a lot of really, really good questions. So these will be a surprise to me, but I am refreshed. I am ready to roll.
All right, from Alex. Assuming there's not some unexpected slide at the top, would it be justified to be extremely disappointed if the Jets stick at pick 7 and end up with anybody not named Graham, Membu, Warren, Tet, or Campbell? This one might be better suited for War Room. It is. And I'll preface this by saying that I hope that this is very unlikely, but what do you guys think overall?
Well, no, I think that I get it. And we do this to ourselves from a fan of a team perspective often, where you talk about the same 4 names in a slot, and then Will McDonald is the pinnacle example.
It's like, what the hell just happened?
And then you break it down from, it's a little easier for me at times because I do this from a Jets lens, and then I totally step out and I do it from a national lens. So I always have a feel for, players I like and might not be I might not expect the Jets to take them. And then in the Jets lens of like, okay, with McDonald, I was able to step back and go, listen, I had him as a top 30 player. He's a first rounder. Here's what he's good at. Is it a surprise? Yeah, it's a little bit of a surprise, but blah, blah, blah. So I think when it comes down to it, that's especially in this class where, and maybe this is the point of the question, where it's like, hey, we've kind of been told that after the 7 or 8 players at the top, this class kind of levels off for about 40 guys, and that's pretty fair. I think, though, so obviously Membu, Campbell, Warren, was there a 4th name mentioned there?
Tet and Campbell were mentioned, too.
Of course. So, Tet, I mean, we'd be happy with any of those guys. I actually don't think Campbell is a tackle. Once again, it's a different combo. I think he could survive at tackle. I wouldn't be willingly using a top 10 pick on him to play tackle. So that one's a little different for me. I'd be very surprised unless they just evaluate him as a tackle, like some teams will. I don't think majority teams will. But we had this combo briefly on the main show this week. Kelvin Banks is completely viably in play with the top 10 pick because he was a damn good left tackle for Texas.
This is turning into the Kelvin Banks pod. You're going to get aggregated.
It's
Rogers cites Banks as potential pick for Jets.
I'll do a defensive. Yeah, you're right. A defensive player too to show this. Like if the Jets say the Patriots take Membu at 4, and the Jets don't view Campbell as a tackle, but they want a right tackle. Banks is a top, I think, 13 to 15 player for me right now. They take him at 7 and go, you're our right tackle now. Is that a bad pick? Are we disappointed? Probably not. Then you flip it on the other side of things and look at it and go, okay, well, did he say Mason Graham as one of the names?
Yes. Yeah. I think everyone would generally be pumped about Graham.
Right. Or look at, say they took, now this would surprise me, but say they took Mike Green at 7. Mike Green is a top 10 player for me. And the Jets pass rush right now, quietly, is not great because McDonald's a really good pass rusher. We love Jermaine. He's coming off an Achilles. So hopefully those guys are, when they're clicking, they are a good duo. But the Jets as a unit right now are a maybe average pass rushing team. We don't know who the hell is playing next to Quinnen Williams. And Quinnen doesn't play 80 to 90% of the snaps anyway. So once again, I don't think the Jets are taking Mike Green. But he's one of those names that wasn't mentioned who is one of the best defenders in this draft. So that's why you need to be careful when you kind of fall into that. But I think it's fair if some fans were like, man, I wanted to come away. I think Graham is one of the best players in this draft. So of course you want to come away with a player of Graham's caliber. Membu is a really, really good prospect. We talked about where he ranks the last couple of drafts on the main show. So it's fair, but you also need to be careful in putting yourself in that bracket, because then if they take someone that's maybe the 17th ranked player at 7, then you have people calling it an all-time disaster. And that's not the right way to classify it, but maybe disappointment would be fair.
Why can't we just live the armchair GM dream of trading back 10 spots, getting Loveland, getting the receiver we want at the top of the second, getting an extra second to get Tyleek, and then in the third round, getting whatever other position we need. And all
right
4
tackle.
of them could be a starter. Oh, can it be that easy? I got to tell you, I mean, you got me more intrigued on Banks coming out of these last 2 recordings. Green, man, if they're going to go defense at 7 this year, that guy better be a goddamn star like Sauce was right out of the gate.
I agree.
Well, but you're right. They do have a needed edge, to be fair. We haven't talked about it enough, but who is their third edge rusher right now? Don't say Michael Clemens, because I can't talk about him anymore.
All along the Watts Tower. It's Watts, McGregor. Like, that's what we're back. Let's be fair. Third edge isn't as important as the starting defensive tackle next to Quinnen Williams.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't ever have that conversation. But the Jets' lack of significant inactivity, on the pro side of things has, like, they have a lot of needs right now, and they are not going to come out of this draft with all of them solved.
All right. Tyler F. We have all heard the Warren versus Bowers prospect talk, but how does Warren grade out as a prospect versus other recent first-round tight ends? All right, so we know Bowers was a higher prospect, different kind of player completely.
Yeah,
Would you believe that I got a tweet this weekend that compared Warren to Trevin Wesco, and that Trevin Wesco had 1 year of production? I looked it up. He had 26 catches with 1 touchdown. His is 1 year of production, and Warren had like 13 touchdowns and like 1,300 total yards last year. But how does he compare to some of the other non-Bowers first-round tight ends?
So you look at first-round tight ends. Kincaid, he's just an all-around more complete player than Kincaid, Kincaid was a talented pass catcher, but I didn't think he could play on the line of scrimmage at the next level. So that was the last round 1 guy before Bowers. 2022, we didn't have a first-round tight end. Trey McBride was the first tight end taken. Kyle Pitts in 2021. Looking back at the evaluation of Pitts, it's kind of interesting to me how people ran away with what he could be so quickly rather than saying, like, hey, the thing is, if you're not going to play on the line of scrimmage consistently, you need to be such a different, like, you need to be Brock Bowers. That was easy, right? You need to be Brock Bowers, that when you are playing in the slot or out wide, or they're using you in different ways out of the backfield, you are such a physical mismatch with every human being in front of you. That, and to be fair to Bowers was also a better prospect on the line of scrimmage than Pitts. Pitts was a flawed prospect that the freakiness of him was just so tantalizing that he was going to go. I'm still surprised he went in the top 5 in that draft, but I didn't think things would be this grim at this point. Then you look, no one in 2020, 2019, TJ Hawkinson and Noah Fant. Wow. It's so weird to think Noah Fant was a first round pick 6 years ago. I think Warren is just always, in my opinion, consistently more physical than all these players. Like, that's always my thought. I think Hawkinson was a more natural pass catcher. Warren is weird where he will make, and I'm combining both 2023 tape and this year. A lot of people are just going off of this year's tape. He will make insane one-handed climb the ladder catches, and sometimes he won't adjust as smoothly to easy ones. So I think Hawkinson was a more natural pass catcher. I think Warren is just such a more physical football player with and without the ball. That's if you're going to fight for Warren over these guys, we'll do a couple more. Hayden Hurst, not physical, 2018 first rounder. OJ Howard, 2017.
Almost Jet. It's a
Almost
popular
Jet.
mock pick.
Yeah, I know Woody Johnson really liked him. OJ is going back now a little bit. I was in the business, but I think with OJ, I just didn't know if he had enough juice. which people will argue about Warren at times. People will be like, is Warren explosive enough? I don't know. Warren is just the physicality and the size. Let me see what OJ technically was throughout his process size-wise. OJ was 6'6", 251. So he was really tall, long arms. He is lighter than Warren. Like Warren is, and OJ's agilities were insane. All 90 plus percentile. Bad vertical, weird outlier, 4.5 140-yard dash. So Howard was a great athlete with good size. It is kind of weird that it just like didn't work out at all in some kind of sense. But yeah, I think the argument you're always going to look for with Tyler Warren is that he's just more physical. You know, he's going to play at 260 pounds. But yeah, I would argue that he's not the natural pass catcher from a consistency that some of the other guys were. So let's be real. Like in a normal draft or a good draft, Warren is consistently going between pick 14 to 24. But in a draft that doesn't have a lot of star talent position by position, Warren has an outside shot, not a definite shot, but an outside shot to go in the top 10.
If the Jets don't draft a tight end in the first 4 rounds, I am not fully writing them off trading for Kyle Pitts as one of the veterans that they could trade for. A guy who worked out with Fields. I think it was with Fields when he signed.
Yeah.
He's a third name to watch in the veteran trade target list, for better or worse.
Yeah. It's not
a crazy dart throw if you're trading like a day 3 pick. Underdog fantasy in the offseason. We got best ball drafts. We got high lows on basketball, hockey, baseball, NFL draft. It's all flowing through. CR, it's draft month. How you feeling about, some upcoming underdog selections? Also almost hockey playoffs, basketball playoffs. We got some Knicks Rangers action. How you feeling about underdog right now?
Oh, Pick'em is just in a glorious place right now. When baseball's back, there's so much to play with Pick'em. Not even just the best ball drafts, but Pick'em baseball, I feel like, is on all afternoon into the night all the time. We're going to have hockey playoffs soon. This is one of the best times of the year to be. Where else can you cook up a shot total with a pitcher's strikeouts in one day? Underdog.
Make sure to follow along and make sure to get your deposit match with promo code Badlands up to $1,000 at Underdog Fantasy. All right, next one from DeBrickashaw. Welcome to the Discord, DeBrickashaw. Continuing the discourse from the morning Discord chat. What would be a successful 2025 season for the Jets in your eyes? What should be the expectations as far as range of outcomes? I think for me, I want this team to just be consistently competitive, as reasonably competitive as they can be every week. I don't want any more repeats of the Cardinals game where you knew in the first second that they had just quit and they were going to lay down and die.
Right.
Same thing kind of happened with the Buffalo game late in the season. I think they are I think it's fair to say that they should win. You want to see this team win 7 or 8 games. And if they can get to 9 and sneak in the playoffs, that's awesome. I'm going to be disappointed if they're like a 4-13 bottom feeder team. And that could happen if Justin Fields is terrible and gets hurt, or and Tyrod can't do anything off the bench and they have a bad draft. Like, don't be a zombie 5-12 or 4-13. Like, be a feisty 7-10, 8-9, 9-8. Be competitive. Have a couple upset wins. Punch above your weight. Take advantage of a softer schedule and a more normal schedule. And don't have the season be over going into December. Like, hang around. Be 6-7. Be 7-8. Make it a thing. Don't go out and lose 40-0 to freaking Buffalo. You know what I mean? Like, they go out there, they trade punches, and they lose 27-17. You can live with that this year. But just don't get pumped. That was the Jets last year, man. Like, that Cardinals game, that Bills game, even losing to that version of the Pats team with Jacoby Brissett, like, absolute joke. Like, and then like choking the way they did against Seattle and the Colts, like, unlikable, soft, AAU, selfish, immediately finger. I don't want to see any of the fucking finger pointing on the sideline when someone gets beat again. Drop my one F-bomb a month here. Like,
yeah,
it's a style of play that I need to see different while saying, look, like, win at least 7 or 8 games. Like, don't be a doormat. What are your thoughts, CR?
I think you nailed it. I think when you look at the 2022 Lions, they are a really interesting one to dive into because let's not forget year 1, Dan Campbell and the whole regime. Well, Ben Johnson wasn't the OC. Anthony Lynn, ironically, was, but Aaron Glenn was the DC. That first year, they go 3-13-1. Pretty brutal. Now, they did finish 3-3 that season. They hadn't won a game the first 11 weeks of the season, but they did finish 3-3. And one of those 3 losses, they only lost by 4. So they were showing some signs of life. 2022 is the season I would like them to try to follow for this year's Jets. The 2022 Lions started out an abysmal 1-6, and then they won 3 in a row. They started out 1-6, and then they won their next 6 of 7, and they won their last 2 of 3,
including a nice win over Zach Wilson and the Jets at MetLife.
Right. Yes. Great call. So they went 9-8. I don't expect this year's Jets to go 9-8. But the point is, I would like to see them win 8 games and build on something throughout the course of a year that shows a buy-in and an identity is taking place. Where if you start out slow, it's a new system on both sides of the ball. It's new pieces. But what do you look like after you got punched in the mouth for 6 of the 7 weeks? That's what matters to me. The fact that that team responded and won 8 of 10 games, the Jets don't need to do that. But say the Jets won, 4 of their last 6. That would mean something to me. If it was the offensive line's healthy, they're running the football, Sauce got a takeaway here, Sherwood is calling the defense up front, a young guy on this defensive line is clicking and playing well next to Quinnen Williams. Jermaine looks healthy and back to himself the last 40% of the season. Give a guy some grace coming off an Achilles, especially a position where you are pushing off the foot all the time. And I know he's different and he has all world work ethic, but Jermaine's going to need a little time. How are these young guys communicating on the back end? What does Stevens look like? An investment that they made where they're trying to develop the players still. So it's not always what it looked like on paper at the end of the day, but what was the actual story of the season? Because in professional sports, and I think this gets glossed over in an era where there's so much player movement through free agency, trades, contracts, drafts, you can still build something season to season. Not everything is 1-year windows. It's, I think, a little bit more common it feels like it's a little bit more common, definitely in hockey, and to a degree baseball, because of the way their CBAs are set up. The NBA, there's so much player movement. The NFL, for better or for worse, I think from an entertainment industry, it's for better, which who am I to sit here, right? A football media person. Like, it's great business for us. From a purist of the game, and I'm sure Aaron Glenn agrees with this, it sucks when you're trying to build something and it's hard to have continuity and sustainability. But in football, you could still have 3 to 4 year windows. You can. So if the Jets win 7 or 8 games this year, but they look much better and have an identity the second half of the season, and it's on the backs of younger players, that to me would give promise going into the following year where everybody's optimistic. So yeah, I think not all 7-win seasons are the same. That is a quote I've said quite often. I think there is a world where the Jets have a very promising 7-win season this year.
I think it's a fair assessment for where everything sits right now. We'll see how it plays out.